Let's go now to Capitol Hill, where President Trump's so-called big, beautiful bill faces a major test today. 3 key House committees will meet to iron out some of the most contentious parts. This is timed with House Republicans releasing a new plan that would slash spending by at least $880 billion, and much of those cuts would come from Medicaid. Our Nikole Killion spoke with a 24-year-old Medicaid recipient and a rural hospital CEO on the impact of those potential cuts.
Overall, it's about 30.
30 medications?
Yes.
That's a lot.
Yes. Yes.
How do you pay for all of this?
I am very fortunate that I have Medicaid. They have been paying 100% for most of my medications.
We need a solution that's workable. And throwing out a number like $880 billion, I mean, somebody's going to get hurt in that situation.
All right, let's go now to CBS News congressional correspondent Nikole Killion. Nikole, Republicans said over and over again, by the way, that they wouldn't touch Medicaid. So what exactly is the strategy here?
Yeah, well, just to clear a couple of things up, what they have said is they wouldn't necessarily touch Medicaid benefits. House Republican leaders have always said that they potentially would look, for instance, at issues of waste, fraud, and abuse with respect to the Medicaid program. And they argue that some of these changes that have made, which is part of this big, beautiful bill, not separate from, but this is all, just one portion of the package that they're going to be marking up later today. But they continue to argue that for the most part, this will strengthen Medicaid, again, by kind of eliminating these issues of waste, fraud, and abuse. So some of the changes they have made, for instance, rather than taking more deeper cuts, instead they're looking at other reforms, for instance, like implementing work requirements, also potentially tightening up some of the eligibility requirements and potentially even requiring some beneficiaries to pay a copay if they make above a certain amount. So those are some of the changes that they will be debating and marking up and haggling over. You heard our interviews there with Mark Nance, who is the CEO of Valley Health, which is a rural hospital center just outside the nation's capital here in Virginia. He is open to some changes as long as it is workable, but a significant percentage of the patients that come to his hospital, many of them are on Medicaid. So his chief concern was, look, if you tinker too much with some of these funding formulas, where ultimately some hospitals like him could lose funding, that could force him to kind of change the way his system operates and handles patients. And you also heard from that patient there, Yoli, who is on Medicaid as well. She already works. So when I asked her about these work requirements, she said, well, Medicaid has helped me when I've been working and when I haven't been working. So, her concern is that even if these changes are a little smaller than what was previously projected, she's still worried that people like her could lose some of their coverage as a result.
Yeah, Nikole, what more are we expecting from today's committee meetings?
Well, basically it's not just a House Energy and Commerce Committee that's meeting. Obviously, they are marking up the section that kind of deals with Medicaid. They're charged with cutting about $880 billion in all. So that's not all coming out of Medicaid. They're also making some cuts, for instance, to some of the energy credits stemming from the Biden administration, some of those clean energy credits. But also you have other committees like the House Ways and Means Committee, which is marking up the tax portion of the bill. That is a huge part of this bill, because so much of this is about extending the president's tax cuts and finding a way to pay for it. So that's why they've got to make some of these cuts to pay for these tax cuts that the president wants to extend. So that's things like, extending and expanding the standard deduction or the child tax credit. Most notably, it doesn't look like the tax portion of the package increases rates on higher earners. That's something the president had floated late last week, suggesting that it might be okay to tax the wealthy, have them pay a little bit more, but ultimately that provision didn't make the cut. And then finally, you have the House Agriculture Committee that will also be meeting. They are charged with marking up the portion of the bill that deals with nutrition assistance, food stamps, and they have already proposed putting more of the burden on paying for those types of programs to states. So again, expect Democrats to try to throw a lot of roadblocks into Republicans' way as they try to, again, mark up and finalize the legislative text. So that is why we expect expect all three of these hearings potentially to go pretty late into the day today. Mugo.
And Nikole, speaking of Democrats, on the Senate floor this morning, Senator Chuck Schumer announced he's halting the confirmation of numerous political nominations. And this surrounds reports that the Qatari government is gifting President Donald Trump a plane. Here he is on the Senate floor this morning.
News of the Qatari government gifting Donald Trump a $400 million private jet to use as Air Force One is so corrupt that even Putin would give a double take. This is not just naked corruption, it is also a grave national security threat. So in light of the deeply troubling news of a possible Qatari-funded Air Force One, and the reports that the Attorney General personally signed off on this clearly unethical deal, I am announcing a hold on all DOJ political nominees until we get more answers.
So, Nikole, how are other lawmakers reacting?
Well, look, a lot of senators, both Democrats and Republicans, have a lot of questions about this potential deal and allowing the president to use this Qatari jet. Many have raised questions about ethics, about whether this is something that should be done, questions about surveillance, whether or not there is a way to ensure that there is no spying or there are no bugs on this plane if the president were to use it. So lots of concerns coming both from Democrats and Republicans. Take a listen to what some other lawmakers had to say on this issue earlier today.
It's a costly, illegal, corrupt boondoggle that will ultimately cost taxpayers billions of dollars for an insecure and wasteful vanity project. I can't imagine that the Department of Defense is going to fall for this stuff.
I got no problem with that. I mean, it's made in America, made by Boeing. I don't think that President Trump, he doesn't need a bribe, okay? And I think a lot of people are saying that. That has nothing to do with it. He needs a newer plane, 40 years old. I'm sure there will be some money exchanged hands, probably trying to pay for it, trying to make it, official. We don't like handouts, but at the end of the day, they're trying to be nice with an American-made product. Let's go for it.
So again, Tommy Tuberville, the last senator we heard from, their close ally, the president, seems okay with this. But I would again point out there are other Republicans who aren't and who do say this raises some ethical questions and concerns. That being said, as far as Leader Schumer is concerned, he has called on the Attorney General to come to Congress to testify about why she signed off on this deal. Mugo.
We shall see what happens next. Nikole Killion, thank you so much. Appreciate it.